Vahe Berberian, welcome. I would like to sincerely take a moment to thank you for participating in our event today.
Thank
You
you.
really have made it very special by this interview.
Thank you.
We have a lot of youth in the audience and they are very eager to hear from you. And I would love to start by saying that our subject today is about Armenian language, Armenian identity, culture in California or in the Western world, and how the youth perceive themselves and how they relate to the language, the identity, and the culture. So I would love to hear your thoughts about that subject matter.
So I personally think that we are very, very lucky because we come from so many diverse backgrounds from all over the world. You know, you have Iranian Armenians, you have Armenians from Beirut, you have American Armenians, French, Hayastans, you know, you have like we're everywhere.
True.
And wherever we come from, we bring the culture of that specific background with us. And imagine how rich that makes us feel, you know, because we're instead of throwing that away, we make it up. Like Picasso said, I never copy, I steal. You know, when you make it yours, you enrich yourself. You know, like Borges said, I am the sum amount of all the books that I have read. And I think as Armenians, you know, we're the sum amount of every language that we know, every country that we've lived in, you know, all the cultures that we've exposed to. So that makes us who we are, and it's beautiful, beautiful.
Absolutely, very well said. Absolutely, Vahe. And with that said, what is your take on how humor connects us to our language?
Humor is the most important thing that connects us to our language. I'm not saying this because I'm partial to humor, but seriously, because humor, first of all, in humor, you do not need a very sophisticated language, you know, because humor it's ideas and situations, and so it's the fiber of your mental nutrition. Okay, so without humor, you're constipated.
Absolutely.
And why is this important to culture? It's because with humor comes immediacy. And without immediacy, your culture dies. That immediacy that I'm talking about is what brings your culture up to date. So basically, as you said, humor brings that commonality between people, you know, and it creates a bond that's far more pleasant than tragedy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
in our case, though, I have to say, sadly enough, in our reality, what brings us together is a tragedy.
yes.
Unfortunately, that tragedy is the genocide.
Yes.
And we identify with our Armenianness through that genocide instead of something more pleasant.
Yes.
I keep on saying this. I have never said to forgive and forget and that's it, you know, forget the genocide. That has never been my thing. But what I keep on saying is that, look, if I have gone through a trauma, a very serious trauma, okay, I go see a therapist. I do everything humanly possible in order to forget that trauma, to get out of that traumatizing experience. In our case, it's exactly the opposite. Every time we want to Armenianize someone, we have to bring him through this trauma, or him or her,
Absolutely.
into the trauma in order to make it like, see, this happened, this is a genocide. And so what happens is, you know, being Armenian becomes a traumatizing experience.
Absolutely. And I have to share with you my experience as I have been working on this project, trying to find the younger people that really have consciousness about being a contemporary Armenian and to be able to define and express what it means for them to be an Armenian of 21st century and their identity. You are absolutely right that we can continuously and immediately loop back to the genocide. And even as we attempted to make short films, requesting students to work on a 3-minute film expressing their thoughts about being a contemporary Armenian and what it means to them, what is their relationship with the language or current culture and identity, there is that gap. And we are hoping that with such conversations that we bring awareness and enlightenment, where we start to think not to forget the past, but how to look into the future and look towards the future and live in the present and really build young people that really are comfortable with their contemporary identity of being an Armenian.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And when you say, humor is a fiber of mental nutrition and it creates commonality, it's so true, because there is a young lady, a student, graduate student, Anay Pogosyan, who's a UCLA graduate student, has worked on the subject matter humor and how we can connect humor and being connected to the language. So I believe that for us, one way, a very important building block of language is humor. So
absolutely, and humor is the test, because if whatever you believe in if it's exposed to humor and it survives, that means that it was meant to be. If it collapses, then it wasn't meant to be.
How do you help the youth love Armenian language and not feel uncomfortable to speak Armenian, regardless of how they speak or how fluent they are? Because one of the things that I've experienced as I have started my work and my journey in understanding how to keep Armenian language alive, or the want to keep the Armenian language alive amongst the young people, one of the things that I've come across is the first thing they will say is, well, I don't speak it well. I understand, but I do not speak it well. Or they will not want to speak at all in front of a person who does speak Armenian because, I don't want to make any mistakes as I speak Armenian. What do you say to the young people when those are the thoughts, some of the thoughts they have?
And this happens all the time. You're right, because I text a friend in Armenian, and the response comes, with English letters, and the first thing they tell me when I say, like, why aren't you writing in Armenian? Well, my grammar is so bad, I don't want to make mistakes, So I say, without mistakes, you don't learn. Without mistakes, it's you have. There's nothing embarrassing in making mistakes. What's embarrassing is the fact that you're embarrassed to speak your own language. That's embarrassing, I think. Otherwise, who cares? Who cares if you're writing, if you have misspelled the word or misused even a word? The idea is to keep on trying,
Absolutely.
If I'm learning French, I don't shy away from speaking French because that makes, that's how I learn it. You speak it by speaking it. So imagine, like 1% of something is better than 100% of nothing,
And absolutely, and I think for me, what I like to add on to this is I would love to somehow see parents and older people be a good role model to the young people in saying that, or in establishing, why do we love the language?
Yeah.
Why do we love to speak Armenian? You know, we spend so much time and effort and resources to teach our children French, German, other languages that are unique and interesting. So what will it take for us to go back and say, gosh, let's learn Armenian? Look how beautiful it is. I mean,
Absolutely.
Daniel Varjan, when you start to actually read and understand his writing, it's the most beautiful and romantic writing. And so what will it take amongst my generation and parents who are raising the next generation to say, let's revisit and talk about Armenian language. Why do we want to hold on to our language? Why do we want it to grow? From a different perspective, not that we have to, we must. There is no must or we have to, but how can we plant the seeds of love for our language?
You said it. It has to be about love and not forced. It has to be. You have to create that love. It's funny. I mean, I have a very close friend of mine who has a young son, and the son, up until the age of 16, he never spoke one word of Armenian, even though he knew Armenian fluently. And he called me one day. He goes, "Vahe, my son is speaking Armenian." I said, "How come?" He goes, "It's because of your videos. He keeps on watching your videos and he laughs, and now he's speaking Armenian. You know, he thinks it's cool to speak Armenian." And I said, "That's great. That's wonderful." He goes, "Yeah, but there's one problem." I said, "What?" He goes, "Every time I hear his voice, it's like, it's yours, man."
Which is very interesting because we loop back to humor. How humor really connects us to our language and our identity.
Yeah.
And thank you so very much, Vahe, for all your wise words and thoughts. One last note. What is the message that you'd like to convey to the young people that are sitting in the audience today?
I can say one thing. The most important thing is that you have to read. Read as much as you can. Read incessantly. Read nonstop. Read everything and anything that you can find, especially fiction, because nothing expands your mind more than fiction. And also, like I always say this, being Armenian is a fun thing, it's a cool thing, it's a sexy thing.
Yes.
Enjoy it to the max.
Absolutely. Thank you for again being a part of this event, and thank you for all your beautiful words.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vahe.